Now, from Atlanta News First, the issues that matter to you. This is On the Record.
Well, thanks for joining us this Sunday. A new candidate, a big endorsement, another wide open seat in Congress. Several major shakeups for closely watched races here in Georgia. I'm Doug Reardon.
And I'm Rick Folbaum. Longtime Georgia Republican Congressman Barry Loudermilk says that he will not seek re-election this year. He represents District 11, which covers parts of Cobb, Bartow, Gordon, and Cherokee counties. He is one of at least 50 incumbents in the U.S. House stepping down or running for other offices. 29 of them are Republicans and 4 of them are from Georgia. The 62-year-old has served in the U.S. House of Representatives since 2015 and may be walking away in order to avoid becoming relegated to the minority, which is what many analysts believe will happen to the GOP after this year's midterms. Loudermilk says that he is leaving Congress to focus on his family, writing in a statement, "While serving my constituents in Congress ranks among my greatest honors, being a husband, a father, and a grandfather holds even greater importance to me."
Meanwhile, the race for Congress in Georgia's 14th congressional district is coming back into focus this week. President Donald Trump just endorsed Clay Fuller in the race to succeed Marjorie Taylor Greene in the U.S. House. Fuller currently serves as the DA for the Lookout Mountain Judicial Circuit. The Trenton Republican ran back in 2020 and finished 4th in the 2020 Republican primary that former Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene won.
Fuller has plenty of competition in the race for the U.S. House. 20 other candidates are running against him in the special election, which is set for March the 10th. And that includes 16 other Republican candidates, all running in the Northwest Georgia district.
GOP leaders are concerned the so-called jungle primary system we have here in Georgia could create an opening for Democrats, if you can believe it, in that race.
That's the system that puts the top 2 vote getters in a runoff if no one gets more than 50% of the vote. I spoke with the 14th District GOP Chairwoman Jackie Harlan, who told me she's hoping this race will lead to changes in the way special elections are run across Georgia.
There's nothing fair about it. It's confusing to people. I hope that in this legislative session in Georgia that they pass a bill to eliminate jungle primaries. I know that would be a big load off of my mind for never having to go through this again.
This week, Republican leaders in the 14th District are hosting a candidate forum where all 16 GOP candidates are invited to make their case directly to voters. It's happening this Thursday in Dalton, Georgia. Voters must register to attend, and you can do that through the link on our website, atlantanewsfirst.com.
And Georgia's nationally watched governor's race is now getting more crowded and a little more interesting and certainly more expensive. Rick Jackson, the billionaire founder of Jackson Healthcare, launched his campaign last week, descending from a glass elevator into that kickoff rally. Look familiar?
Yes.
The Atlanta native is framing himself as a political outsider. He's a Republican who says our state's next governor should be a business leader, not a career politician.
When I looked around the field of candidates, I saw something missing. Someone from the outside. Someone who has lived the struggles that most politicians only read about in briefing books. Someone who isn't beholden to the establishment. And I saw no one that has ever been a business leader. I saw a so-called front runner who was weak as can be and as lazy as the day is long.
Jackson already has advertisements running statewide attacking his primary opponents. He's pledged to spend as much as it takes for him to win the race. And Jackson's entrance into the race means there are now 13 people fighting to become Georgia's 84th governor, including 5 other candidates on the GOP side.
Joining us now on the record, former Democratic State Representative Alicia Thomas-Searcy and Don Bolia, who is a veteran Republican consultant and founder of Peachtree Government Relations. Thank you both so much for joining us and going on the record. And Don, let's start with this news about Rick Jackson, very wealthy businessman. We saw him in the glass elevator, not the golden escalator that we saw Donald Trump descend a couple of years ago. But how does his entry into the race affect all of this?
It's a bombshell. It changes the entire calculus of everything we thought we knew about this governor's race. To put it in perspective, if he truly spends $40 million on television over the next 15 weeks, that's $2.5 million a week just on television. Doesn't count the social media and other things that he'll be doing, direct mail. It changes everything. It's going to be so hard now to predict how things are going to ferret themselves out by the May 19th primary.
Yeah, certainly you know, I never would have thought that Burt Jones would have been the second most backed candidate in this race money-wise. But Alicia, when we talk about how Democrats are viewing this, you know, President Trump has already endorsed Lieutenant Governor Jones. Does this change things a little? And are Democrats kind of excited about now there being a little more competition in that GOP primary?
His entrance has certainly shaken things up and making it quite fun for us to watch. You know, it's interesting, as I talk to insiders about this, no one even close to Mr. Jackson knew that he was running. And so it's a bit of a surprise. I'm also hearing that apparently Mr. Jackson and Burt Jones's father have some sort of issue and have had over the years. And so maybe this is a way to get back at Burt Jones's father. I think what's interesting, though, is we're talking about a billionaire who's in the healthcare industry. Not exactly something I think Georgia voters are looking for when we're focused on kitchen table issues, when healthcare is a real challenge, right? When you're trying to make sure that you can put food on the table. I will just say that something that does concern me is when someone says they're willing to spend as much money as it takes and they have nothing to lose. That's deeply concerning for me.
Yeah. Don, moving on to some of these House races now. I mean, I did not expect President Trump to make an endorsement in this crazy crowded primary in the 14th district, but he's gone and done that with Clay Fuller. Then we have Barry Loudermilk dropping out. It's kind of that trend of Republicans who are just not going to be back next year. What are you making of these House races?
Well, I think in the 14th district, it was probably a smart move by the president to do that because it will clear the field. You know, as you know, it's a jungle primary. There's always that possibility that with 16 Republicans and 4+ Democrats that if you're looking at the top two in the primary, you may not have a Republican in the field to face that runoff. So by doing this, I think the president can help clear the field. If you saw what he did with Congressman Brian Jack a few years ago,
yes.
It was a tough primary, but once he made that endorsement, Congressman Jack, it cleared the way for him. So I suspect you could see some of that in this election.
Alicia, the scenario that Don painted just a moment ago, that there could be a Democrat running on the ticket in this District 14 special election, that's exactly what the GOP chair told me. Do you see any possibility that a Democrat could squeak in and become the congressperson representing this ruby red district in Northwest Georgia?
That I happen to live in? Yes. I think it is very possible for a few reasons. Number one, there are a lot of folks in this race, right? And so that means a lot of split votes. But also, if you look at what's happened in Texas just this past week, you had a Trump district that was about +13 that went to a Democrat. And so it's very possible, not only because of the number of Republicans and Democrats in this race, but also there's an anti-Trump sentiment. He's not doing so well across the country. And I think where in the past, having that endorsement might have been helpful, I think it's going to be, it may hurt this time. And so, yes, there's a real possibility. I'm excited that I might have a Democratic congressperson for a few months.
Thank you guys both. Stick around for 1 second. Still ahead on the record, Fulton County takes the feds to court after FBI agents seized hundreds of boxes of ballots from the 2020 election. On the record right now, Fulton County leaders are firing back at the federal government.
And they're demanding the return of hundreds of boxes of ballots and documents related to the 2020 presidential election. County leaders sued the Trump administration after federal agents swarmed the elections hub in Union City, seizing tons of voter information, executing a search warrant. Fulton County Chairman Rob Pitt says he still has no idea where the documents are, so he is suing to get them back. In the days following the raid, President Trump has renewed his calls to make sure elections are safe and secure, insisting the federal government should take over election operations in some states, even though the U.S. Constitution explicitly puts elections under state control.
And the raid is also leaving some Georgia voters uncomfortable and demanding that leaders put politics aside. Others who spoke out at the Fulton County Board of Commissioners meeting last week cheered the move.
The seizure of these records is particularly concerning given known incidents of carelessness with Americans' personal data.
I don't care about a Democrat. I don't care about a Republican. I care about election integrity. Stop blaming people.
Those ballots belong to us, not to you.
And Democratic State Senator Josh McLaurin and Republican State Elections Board member Sally Grubbs were on site at the elections hub during that raid. I spoke to both of them on the record about what they saw and what they hope happens next.
You know, it was kind of a weird scene. I mean, there was a lot of tension.
when he got word that FBI agents were raiding the Fulton County elections hub. State Senator Josh McLaurin, a Democrat from Sandy Springs, jumped in the car and went.
Do you guys mind me asking what these are? We're senators who represent Fulton County. I'm just curious.
Eventually gaining access to the building, McLaurin and other state lawmakers saw agents moving around boxes and boxes of documents. County officials later confirmed that inside those boxes were the original ballots from Fulton's 2020 election.
So did anybody get a physical copy of the search warrant?
Body camera footage from some of the first local law enforcement to arrive on scene shows a hectic, sometimes tense environment as FBI agents arrived unannounced, flexing a federal search warrant to staff and local police.
We wanted to let her facilitate us moving through the building to unlock the gates so that we don't have to breach it, because one way or the other, the records are coming with us today.
The fallout from the 2020 election has left deep impressions in Georgia. It led to the criminal indictment of U.S. President Donald Trump and wholesale changes to Georgia's voting procedures amid skepticism and even conspiracies fueled at times by Trump himself.
You go take a look at Atlanta, look at some of the places that horrible corruption on elections.
Several recounts, audits, and investigations, even led by Republican state lawmakers, found no evidence of fraud. McLaurin said the FBI's recent actions amount to voter intimidation in one of the most Democratic-leaning counties in Georgia.
And all of that is because Donald Trump is still obsessed with the fact that he lost the 2020 election in Georgia.
Are you concerned that this is just kind of the beginning of this now?
This is a trial balloon to see if he can get away with this elsewhere. Trump is only doing this because he's scared. He is afraid of what's going to happen in these midterms. He's afraid that it's going to be a round rejection of everything that he's been doing for the last year or two.
The ballots were eventually carted off in rented box trucks. Days later,
our Constitution itself is at stake in this fight.
Fulton Commission Chairman Rob Pitts announced the county was suing the federal government for the immediate release and return of the ballots.
Rob Pitts and the Board of Registration and Elections versus the United States of America.
Pitts said even a week after the raid, he had no idea where they were.
We don't know where they are. We don't know really who has them. We don't know what they're doing with them. Are they being tampered with? I can use my imagination, and I would certainly hope not.
Where are the ballots now? Do you know who has them?
I have no idea. I mean, they're in the care, custody, and control of the FBI.
Republican Sally Grubbs is the newest member of the Georgia State Elections Board. She was sworn in just a few weeks before the FBI raid. You, as a member of the State Elections Board, wouldn't you want to know where those ballots are?
I do believe that there needs to be a protective order or something of that nature by the State Election Board to protect our interest and also overseeing what happens with the documentation.
In 2024, the Republican majority State Elections Board, before Grubbs was on it, voted to subpoena the same exact documents the FBI seized last month. It was a demand Fulton wholly rebuffed over and over again. What are the people who want these ballots and so desperately have for many, many years now actually looking for in that paperwork? And you say people should know the truth. In your mind, what is the truth?
The truth to me is that we probably, given the amount of discrepancies that there are, will probably never really know who won the presidential race. For me, it's not proving whether or not, President Trump won, whether he didn't win. Of course, it would be great to know that. But part of the issue is people say move forward, get away from 2020 and that kind of thing. But it's been proven by subsequent elections that there are bad processes and there are things that have not been able to be substantiated.
What if there is an investigation and nothing changes? Nothing is found in these ballots. What would put these concerns about the 2020 election to rest?
If nothing's found and the counts come out, I say, hey, great, that's wonderful. Let's learn from the experience and move on. But sitting on the State Election Board, I think it's very important to give Georgians confidence. We have a lot of division over this issue. We know that there are still significant irregularities in our elections, and these are things that need to be addressed and need to be fixed.
Atlanta News First has been covering every angle of the FBI raid at the Fulton County Elections Hub. Scan the code right there on your screen to download our free app and get updates on the case sent right to your phone in real time.
Coming up next on The Record, a new push at the state capitol to pour resources into Georgia schools. Happening now, Georgia lawmakers are working to make sure that schools have all the resources they need to help children learn how to read.
Yeah, right now, 1 in 3 Georgia students cannot read proficiently by the time they reach 3rd grade, that all-important benchmark for literacy. The Georgia Early Literacy Act of 2026 is an effort to fix that. It's one of Republican House Speaker John Burns' priorities for this legislative session. If passed, the bill would also require Georgia students to attend kindergarten before they can enroll in 1st grade, and it would stop young readers from being promoted to the next grade if they aren't reading at proficient levels. The legislation would also free up funding for literacy coaches in every single Georgia elementary school. And a tax fight erupting under the Gold Dome could have implications for some of those schools.
Last week, Georgia Senate passed its version of the property tax relief bill, setting up a high-stakes showdown with the Georgia House. The measure caps how fast property tax bills can grow by limiting how quickly home values are assessed. But leaders in the Georgia House say the Senate plan doesn't go far enough. The House plan would phase out property taxes on primary homes by 2032. It's a move local governments and school districts warn could create a $5 billion funding gap for schools and other essential services. And we're back with our panel. So, Alicia, you've been part of these legislative battles under the Gold Dome. Take us behind the scenes. What's going on with these bills and how's it going to play out?
Well, you're right. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, right? And while many people talk about fights between Democrats and Republicans, there are a lot of fights between the House and the Senate. And I think this is probably a good example where you have Burt Jones running for higher office, right? He's trying to get rid of the income tax. And so this is important for him to get passed. He's going to need this on the campaign trail. But then you have on the House side, Speaker Burns, who's not running for higher office. He's going to be there for a while, and he wants to get rid of property tax. And so my guess is that both bills will pass in each chamber. It'll be a question about what happens when it gets to the other side. I think politics will get involved, but there's also the policy, right, that we need to be concerned about, because if you get rid of property taxes, school districts are going to be very concerned. Local governments are going to be concerned about how they pay for fire and those kinds of essential services. If you don't have enough revenue at the state level, there are concerns about how we'll pay for education, healthcare. And so there are some real conversations that need to happen from a policy level, but you also have a lot of political fighting happening. But my guess is neither one of these are going to pass.
Yeah, interesting. Don, you mentioned it, Alicia, and I wanted to ask you, Republicans have always been billed as the party of fiscal responsibility, right? But to your point, they're getting rid of a lot of money that's going to these municipalities. They're getting rid of the state's largest source of income. It's somewhere north of 50% of the state's budget, this income tax. And so is this the fiscally responsible thing to do right now?
Well, I think someone's got to do the math, and I think they're working on that now, especially on the House side. I think they made it clear that this first proposal is something they want everyone to have input on. And I think that if you look at the Speaker, John Burns, you look at Shaw Blackman, Chairman of Ways and Means, look at Chairman of the Education Committee, who's an educator himself, Chris Irwin. All of these folks understand the impact it's going to have on local governments, on schools, on cities and counties. So they're doing the math, and I think they're willing to take input. I think on the Senate side, they're proposing an income tax reduction or elimination, but it's based on eliminating a lot of current tax abatements. And the question is, can you get there with those abatements? Someone's got to do all the math.
Let's relax for a second, talk about literacy, because, for those who don't know, when you go to these press conferences at the Capitol, if it's a Republican bill, it's Republicans lining the steps. If it's Democrats, same thing. There were a lot of Democrats at this bill announcement that is being led by Republican House Speaker John Burns. Is this something that maybe we could see some bipartisanship on, Alicia?
Yes, it felt like Christmas to see that press conference yesterday. Yeah. It was a little weird, but good, and something that we need to see. The fact that only 30% of our kids in our state, and really it's a national issue, are reading proficiently is crisis. And I appreciate the leadership of Speaker Burns stepping up, taking this mantle and saying we have got to do something about literacy in the state. And we've had a couple of things happen over the last few years, and that's good, but this is great. And so when you talk about making sure that kids K through 3 have access to a literacy coach, or teachers have access to a literacy coach, you talk about requiring kindergarten. That's so important for those early grades and having those foundational skills. Many of us tried that. When I was in the legislature, I tried, couldn't get it passed. But when you have the Speaker of the House saying, this is what we want. You have Democrats and Republicans coming together. This is monumental. I'm excited. I feel like this is going to pass, because who can be against making sure our kids can read in this state.
Yeah, not Republicans, certainly. They're
Yeah.
the ones leading the charge.
Yeah, and I think the exciting thing is that they're going to copy the Mississippi Miracle, what they did there with literacy, and they're addressing the entire ecosystem. Part of the problem is our teachers don't know how to teach the science of reading, and they're addressing that in this bill.
Yes.
See, for all those people out there frustrated that there's never anything that lawmakers can agree on,
we don't want to hear it this week.
Seems like we found an issue.
Yes, there's hope for our kids.
We want to thank our panelists today, Alicia Thomas-Searcy and Don Bolia.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you both.
of course, thank you as all for always watching. We'll see you back here next Sunday.